When learning R for data science, it goes without saying that you'll need to learn how to read in and write out data. Data is often stored in comma-separated file format, so we'll learn how to read and write data in this format, but the functions and syntax for reading data in other formats are very similar. So here is our income dataset, which is a comma-separated file that sits in our documents folder. What we want to do is read in this data in a simple single command line, and this dataset is accompanying this video. You can find it on the learning portal. So we'll give our dataset a variable name and we'll just simply call it income. Then we'll use the read CSV function. And we give this function the path or the folder directory of where our data sits. So in my case, it's within users. And after the /, I can simply tab and navigate my way there. Otherwise, you're welcome to type this out by hand. Okay. Now I have headers in my columns, but if I didn't, I could always set header equals false. As I do have headers, it will automatically read this in, and it will also infer the data types as well. Okay, now that we have given it the full path with quotation marks around the string, let's run this line. And we can use the head function here to see if it's read the data incorrectly. So the head function just gives us the first few rows of data. Cool. We have just read in our data as a data frame. We'll explain more what we mean by a data frame later on. In Windows, you need to give it the full path or directory. You need to use kind of double backslashes. Windows interprets this as the path. So for example, inside the read CSV function, you'd simply just use double backslash. And it usually sits in your C drive. Now, another way you can read in this data set is instead of giving the read CSV function the full path, we could set up a working directory to where all our files are, the files that we'll be working with. So then we only have to use the file name and extension when reading in the data set. So for example, I'll use the setwd function here. And I'll give it my working directory. So everything that I'm going to use sits within documents. And so when I read in my data here, I'll only really need to use the file name and extension, making life a little bit more easier. So you can also read in a dataset using RStudio if you like. So this bottom right panel here, if you look under the Files tab, you'll see Documents where our data is stored. Just click on this and then double click on this and Import Dataset. And that's another way you can read it into R. Now to write out data, we use the write CSV function. You might want to write out the entire dataset, so we just give it the name of our dataset. Or it could be a variable within our dataset, so the outcome variable or the predictions column, for example. Maybe you want to write that to a CSV file. And we have to give it the directory to where we want to store our CSV file and a name of our CSV file as well. So I'll just put it in the same place as been putting everything else. And I'm just going to call it average income.csv. That'll do. We might not want to include row numbers or the index as a column in our CSV file. If that's the case, we can always set row names equals false. Okay, let's run this. And let's have a look. Okay, great. So as you can see, we have successfully written data to a CSV file. In the next video, we'll discuss data frames.